U.S. Secretary of Defense has made an unannounced visit to Ukraine. Lloyd Austin arriving in Kyiv this week, meeting with President Volodymyr Zelensky and other top Ukrainian officials and affirming America's commitment to Ukraine's war effort, both verbally and financially, saying that the U.S. support will continue for the long haul and announcing an additional $100 million in weapons being sent to the embattled country. Joining us now, Dakota Wood, Senior Research Fellow for Defense Programs at the Heritage Foundation. Sir, nice to have you with us as always. What's the significance of Secretary Austin's visit to Ukraine and also the amount of money and what it'll be used for?
Well, on the money side, not much. I mean, 100 million is a lot of money in anybody's bank account. But when we talked about $45 billion provided by the U.S. and only about 5 or 6 billion still on the books that the Pentagon is authorized to spend, this 100 million, in comparison, doesn't sound like a whole lot. They're going to use it for cold weather clothing, for some small arms ammunition, a bit of artillery rounds, and the intent is to get Ukraine through this winter season. But the significance of the visit itself is really much reassurance. I mean, I'm sure the words of support to Zelensky and to Ukraine are important. The U.S. stands with Ukraine as it's defending itself against Russia. But words only go so far on the battlefield. At some point, you need munitions and equipment. And the political climate has been changing in Europe and in the United States, where it's not as impassioned right now, that the enthusiasm is kind of worn off. And the Ukrainians are very concerned about that.
Right. And so what happens if the U.S. stops funding Ukraine? What happens to Ukraine if and when that takes place?
Well, it's going to be in a dire situation. I mean, to the Europeans' credit, they really have stepped up compared to where they were at, say, a year ago. I think they're at least matching, if not providing more funding to Ukraine than the United States is, which is a good thing. But they're starting from a much lower position in terms of the ability to produce armaments and munitions and equipment. They just don't have the industrial base, and it takes a long time to reconstitute that. So talk now is starting to leak out about some kind of a negotiated ceasefire. What that would mean in practical terms is Russia continues to hold the terrain that it currently sits on and owns, and it will use any time available to further entrench and make its defensive positions that much stronger. So if U.S. support falls back, it means that it provides opportunity for Russia to maybe regain the initiative in offensive actions, and it makes it more difficult for Ukraine to then fight back against Russia, either to retake ground or even to hold what it currently has retaken from Russia over the last year. So I think we're in a really strategic balancing point at this point in the year, and we'll have to see how the Europeans respond and how the U.S. Congress responds.
Have we seen many gains on either side in Ukraine over the past few months, especially as attention has focused so intently on the situation in Israel?
Yeah, not so much. I mean, Zelensky has said, hey, it's not a stalemate. We're doing certain things in certain areas, but so has Russia. And in fact, if you look back over the last month or two, in terms of additional ground gain, Russia has taken or retaken a bit more than what Ukraine has. But I mean, we're talking, meters, hundreds of meters, maybe a few square kilometers or miles in that. The big story is Russia continues to occupy a fifth of the country, though Ukraine has pretty much neutralized Russia's Black Sea maritime or naval capabilities. Russia still poses a threat to the movement of grain out of southern Ukraine to the global market. And so this stasis, this balancing act that we see on the battlefield actually plays to Russia's favor because it hasn't lost significant position. Ukraine needs longer range land attack missiles so that it can threaten Russian positions in Crimea. Those haven't really come about, and it doesn't have much of an air arm or air capability. So I think time is on Russia's side, and this is what the Ukrainians are most concerned about at this stage.
Yeah, and Russia has weaponized winter, and we saw in the video of Secretary Austin the breath of in the air, how cold it already is in Ukraine. Dakota Wood, we're out of time, but thank you as always. Happy holidays to you, and hope you have a safe and happy holiday with your family. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.